heart of fiction. This is a channel about my stories. Stories I've created since I was a little kid. And I am not a good writer. I have tried to write my stories. And I did okay for I want to say 10 chapters. But then it started not making sense by that point. So I decided, well, I'm pretty good at telling people stories, so I'll just do that. So I've decided that instead of writing a book to get my stories out there and let people know that I have a story to tell as well, I'm going to do it in the form of a podcast. Uh, and this podcast will start the story I will be starting with for this podcast will be The Elementalists. While this is not the first story I ever created by any means, it is the most fleshed out and prepared to be done. So what I want to do with this first episode is give you an idea of why I'm doing this channel, why I'm doing this, and why gave me the idea to start these stories, what inspired me. But before I get into that, I'm going to give you a first look at what you'll be getting into in Heart of Fiction with the Elementalists. So without further ado, I'll give you a little snippet of my story. The Elementalists, Book 1, Prologue of Ignition. Let us begin. This story starts out on a faraway world called Arcana. On a continent with one large freshwater lake and a few other small freshwater bodies of water near that lake. This story starts on that continent in the desert kingdom of Guran. Now in this kingdom there is a military police force called the Pocos. They received a distress messenger that a large firestorm was making its way to the village. Not knowing what this meant, the Pocos decided to send out several of their elementalists along with their regular soldiers to make sure that things would go well. Firestorms were incredibly uncommon. As the Pocos made their way to the village, they could see smoke on the horizon. Lots and lots of smoke. And as they crested the hill and saw the village, they were aghast. Rubble. As they got closer, they saw that it was scorched. It was burnt to cinders. There were buildings caved in on themselves. The captain of the group, Gray, looked to one of his companions. Owen, use your air. Search for any survivors. Owen, a wind elementalist, breathed in deeply, drawing the air into his source, gaining its essence and control over it. He then expended its energy and breathed it back out. The air moved throughout the village, trying to pick up any sign of survivors. Owen looked back to his captain and told him, "There's a small sign of air. Seems to be a child, perhaps a small girl." Gray led the party in the direction of where Owen sensed the breathing, and they eventually made their way to the Lord Mayor's house. The Lord Mayor is a position gained when you become mayor, essentially in order to hold up with other nobles and have a voice in noble society. when you gain a position of political power, such as a mayor or a governor, you become the Lord Mayor or the Lord Governor. It is a temporary title that you have only while you are hold the position of mayor, governor, whatever position you have. Now, as they made their way to this house, they were incredibly surprised. There was a large hole, like a large cannon had blown through it. They made their way inside and saw a large scorch mark in the shape of an X burned into the stone floor. They were horrified. One of the soldiers looked up. What kind of creature could have done this? No fire elementalist has this kind of power. Not even the grand fire sages of the court. Gray looked at him and looked at the ground. Then he turned to Owen. Owen, the breathing. Is it here? Owen looked down at the floor, looked at him, and nodded. Gray then looked at one of his other elementalist officers. Braun, move the stone. Braun then looked at him. He settled himself, slammed his foot against the earth, and used his reserve and absorbed the essence of the earth, gaining its power, and lifted the stone slab. Similarly, if you have watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, to how the Earthbenders lift the stone and lift the stones and move them aside. After that, he made his. After that, they made their way into a secret passage and down a tunnel, finally making their way to a large dome-like room. In the back of the dome, huddled in the fetal position, was a small girl, no more than 8 years old. Gray wandered up to her. Are you all right? The little girl looked up at him. Are you a vampire? Gray looked down at her. Is it that obvious? I thought I looked a little bit more human today. The girl looked up at the strange man, seeing the fangs, the pale skin, and the red eyes. It's quite obvious. You should not have come. Why shouldn't I have come? You need rescuing. So rescue you I shall. You won't get the chance. It'll come and kill you all. What do you mean? What are you talking about? All of a sudden, fire burst into the chamber. It consumed Braun in an instant. Owen breathed in a massive amount of air and breathed it out, creating a shield around the men. But he only could hold that for so long before he ran out of breath, and then, boom, the fire crushed him and burned him to ashes. Gray watched, horrified, and then he knew what he had to do. He ran forward and started breathing in the fire. He breathed it in and breathed it in until he got every last lick of the fire inside of his source. See? Not so hard. But then he felt it inside of him, trying to escape, burning him from the inside. But burning him? Fire wasn't supposed to burn him if it was inside his source. He tried to consume its essence, but its essence was too strong. He heard it inside of his mind. No! No! No one try to sire. I need the girl. It was burning inside of him. so intent on his destruction, on the girl. Gray looked at the child. Run! Run! And she did, bolting out of the chamber, through the hallway, and out of the secret door. She ran as fast as she could, making it out of town. She found one of the horses, mounted it, mounted it, and rode away. She rode as fast as she could, making her way to the capital of Guran. She made her way to the capital of Guran, Enendar. And that is a small snippet of the Elementalists. Every episode I'll do 3 chapters or so, more depending. I would love to have some feedback on what you all think. Whether it's I should do more or less voices. I kind of try to do like a midway point with this on doing voices, but if you want, I can do more, or if you want, I could do less. I could make it more of a just explaining what they're doing, but I like doing the voices. It's fun for me, and I hope you all enjoy it too, because then I get to do it more. Otherwise, I'd love to get your thoughts on length. I was thinking 30 minutes to an hour, depending, somewhere in between there. I think that would be a good time, considering this is a podcast. You're most likely just sitting and listening to it instead of watching me mumble on. Uh, and then another thing is I'd love your feedback on my story, what you thought of how the music system seems to work, and your thoughts on any of the other parts so far. Um, I will get more into how it works later on. As I move on with the story, you'll get to understand more of how the magic works, and eventually, I'm sure some guy will probably ask about it, and then he'll get a full in-depth explanation. Of course, not for your benefit, it's for that guy in the story's benefit. Um, Other than that, I will move on to my reasoning for making this channel and what inspired me to make these stories. So to start off, my reasoning to make this channel, as I said earlier, is I'm a terrible writer. Well, I'm not a terrible writer. I'm just not a good one. And I wanted to make this channel because several of my siblings are getting their stuff out there. Uh, my brother is going to school to be a video game programmer so that he can make video games about his world. And that is super cool. And I would love to play his games and his worlds and stuff like that. He has his stories that, and he's expressing it through making games. My sister is a published author. She has several books. They're called The World Over. They're pretty good books. They're post-apocalyptic, if you're interested. She has gotten her stories out through writing books. So I thought, I'll write some books. I wrote 10 chapters, as I said, and I was like, ooh, I'm not good at this. And I could have continued going through hard work and perseverance, but I thought instead of doing that, I'll do it in a way that's more comfortable to me and more easier for me to express, and that is talking. I love talking to people, and I love sharing what I have to say through words. I have told my stories to several people throughout my life. Uh, Family, friends, and I've just told them, and they're like, "Wow, this is so good. You should write it down." I'm like, "I should." And now I'm thinking maybe instead of writing it down and creating a book, I should share Luke Griffinoff because I am a storyteller at heart. I'm not a story writer. Now, that's not to say if this channel does great and I get a bunch of money for it, which here's hoping. Uh, if it does, I will uh, maybe make a comic or something for my story. Maybe that's what I'll do. I don't know. We'll see. Um, other than that, my inspirations for my stories are when I was a young child. I think I was, I don't know, like 4, probably sooner, but 4 is the earliest I remember. I don't remember a lot from being 4. My sister gave me a nickname, and that was Koji. And from there, I created several stories just based around that nickname. Uh, Koji was the main character, and he went through several different changes. He was originally a human, and then he was a demon, and then he was a race that I created myself. Uh, and it continued to expand from there. The magic, the worlds, and on this world and this is a world that is in the same universe as Koji is. So, who knows? Maybe later you'll meet him, or I'll throw him in there as like a Easter egg at some point. Who knows? Uh, for your reference, that's Koji. He's currently wearing armor. He has a sword. He does not really know how to use the sword. He just wears them because he just has one because he thinks it looks cool. Um, but yeah, he is. Uh, I like to think unique, but in the grand scheme of the world, someone's probably created a character very similar to mine. In fact, my brother created character very similar to mine. Although I guess I created a character very similar to his because he came first. He's older. So those are my inspirations. This world in particular is very much inspired by Avatar: The Last Airbender and Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn. I saw Mistborn and I was like, wow, that's a really cool magic system. And then I made one similar. It is unique, but it is very much inspired by those two magic systems. And um, other than that, I can't think of anything else. So this video is going to be shorter than other videos will be. The other videos will be longer, mostly just because I'll just be talking about my stories, and depending on how long I'll go, I'll probably just go until I reach a certain do the story until I reach a certain time, and then I'll be like, all right, that's it. But let me know how you liked this first episode, how you liked how I told the story. If you'd like me to do more of a conservative, no voices, okay. If you'd like me to do more voices, okay. Or if you liked this, let me know. Other than that, I hope you have a wonderful day. And remember, if you want to get a story out there, you are the heart of fiction. People creating stories out of nothing. It's the heart of fiction. And that's why I named this channel that. Was because I'm just a random guy who made a story out of nothing when he was a little kid. So if you have a story to tell, find a way to get it out there. Writing what I'm doing, or telling your friends. Get it out there. I hope you all have a wonderful day, or night, depending on what time it is where you are. Goodbye.